Dr. Miluna Fausch. Dr. Miluna Fausch is an executive communication and presence coach, healing practitioner, and professional actor. Dr. Miluna Fausch has an intuitive and pragmatic superpower coming from multi-faceted experience in 9-to-5, retail, as an entrepreneur, an investor, serving on non-profit boards, and on stage and screen as a performer. Dr. Miluna Fausch created her exclusive vocal archetypes to train executives and thought leaders in intentional confidence, effective, enlightened speaking, presenting, and stage presence. You will find Miluna attending concerts and lectures, traveling, wine tasting, watching Formula One auto races, serving on the advisory board of Love Never Fails to Stop Human Trafficking, and volunteering as a college mentor with MVLA scholars. Dr. Miluna Fausch is the Forbes book author of Uplevel Your Communication, Evolve Your Presence and Speech to Change Everything. I warmly welcome Dr. Miluna Fausch. Welcome to BrandsTalk.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
The pleasure is all mine. Miluna, you have done so much in your life. Please tell us how you got there, where you are at now. Could you please tell us your personal story?
I've always been in love with the voice. So picture me as a little girl, little teeny girl. I'm still pretty little physically. And I would swing and sing in the backyard, singing all of the television commercials, all of the jingles. Just something about sound and auditory has always been how I learn. I think my primary sense is my hearing. And I began to study voice and piano and acting. I'm also the great experimenter. In the human design system, I'm a manifester, which is actually very rare. And I need to try everything. So that's why I've done so many things. Like I've got to figure it out first before I can bring it to myself or clients. Then I worked with actors and singers, but I thought business people would make better clients because they have money. I don't believe in starving artists. I don't like the fact that artists believe they can't make money or shouldn't make money. And I began to work with business people. I consider myself a business businesswoman. And I realized I could help salespeople, executives, leaders who were afraid to public speak. Their sales presentations were not good. They were not connecting to people. They had no stage presence, really didn't understand how to be in the moment. And that's how my niche got narrower and narrower, and the branding became what it is today.
Wow, that's interesting. And I love that you're working with business people, and entrepreneurs are also business people, and entrepreneurs also need to present themselves. And your focus, Dr. Miluna, is on our voice, how to present ourselves. It's our voice. And that topic is also today, our voice. What does our voice say about our brain, about our identity? That's what we show and communicate to the world. So how would you define voice? And how can we leverage our voice to be the key of our competitive advantage? And what is a strong voice? So let's start with how would you define voice?
So many good questions. Right now, I think 3 weeks ago, the world time clock went to 8 billion people on the planet. I think we underestimate what one voice can do. When we fully express, for example, if I whisper, it's very taxing on my vocal folds or vocal cords. So I believe that's a sign to us we're designed to fully express. So for example, if I drop my voice down here into my throat, it has no energy, it has no carrying power. I like to think of the voice as always up and out, forward, instead of down and back. which has no energy to go through the camera or connect to the audience. A rich, strong voice for me is healthy. It sounds confident. It sounds credible. We choose our words so carefully. We deliver with ease because we've practiced and we've made peace with our voice. We've conquered our stage fright. And we really know in our heart, my voice can make a difference. I'm going to use it to influence and impact the world for good.
So, how can we train our voice to be strong, to be powerful, to be convincing, to be compelling, to be also to connect with people with the emotions on the visceral level? So, how can we play with our voice, or how can we be more intentional with our?
I think using it well. So, warming up, just like we work out and stretch and work on flexibility in our physical body and our mental, hopefully, as well, right? Emotions, working on all these aspects. Of course, I've trained for years and years and years. And I want people to know you can build a better voice. So you can warm up in the shower in the morning. That's the perfect place because it's wet. Your body and voice love hydration. So in the morning, the first thing to do for a healthy habit would be to get a big glass of water, put just yes, put just a bit of Himalayan sea salt in there because that allows our bodies to absorb the hydration. And then you can move into coffee or tea a little bit later. That starts your throat with moisture that hydrates your body, which just benefits your vocal folds. Then you can do scales up and down. I call it sirens. Ooh, you can go up and down in your voice. You can audio record your voice and really listen to how other people hear you. You can walk around the room. Let's say you get a book that you love, maybe it's poetry, or maybe it's even a children's book, something clever like Dr. Seuss, or something that has rhymes. And you can take that book and walk around your home or office feeling that your voice is your body, your entire body is your instrument. That's how I look at it. And play with your words. Get soft, get loud, change your dynamics, put the emotion in there, allow yourself to be vulnerable and from the heart and dramatic. That's how you'll get used to understanding just how much is behind your voice if you're willing to allow it to be opened up and rich and beautiful.
Okay, that's a really, really good advice already. And you mentioned something, it's also about the mental state of what we are in. And that also affects our habits. And these habits, the way of how we do things, also affects our brain and our messages that we are sending out. Because our habits, they ring through this voice, how we communicate our message. How do we deal with that? How do we move past these habits that cause this incongruence in our voice? Because we want to come across as a trustworthy brand, as a strong brand, as a thought leader, someone people believe in our brand. So how do we cope with that?
I like to invite my clients to record their voice, just the audio, not the visual, and move into a place of no judgment. You may or may not know, even famous singers like Barbara Streisand, and people talk about this. Oh, I don't like my voice. And I used to not like my voice either, because the first time you hear yourself recorded, you think, is that what I sound like? It actually is, because of course, our ears are this way. We don't hear ourselves as other people do. So I want to invite our listeners and the audience to record yourself. Pick out the things you already love about your voice and what you can highlight. And just like anything else that's a good habit that will allow you to show up and shine, you want to practice and prepare. Before I speak or do anything, I still prepare. I do not wing it. After all these years, I intentionally set it up. What am I here for? Am I here to educate? Am I here to run for office? Am I here to get a promotion? Am I here to connect with a prospective client? You can also do something that's fun. You go to a corner of your room and you can speak into that corner, get very close, and the feedback around you will allow you to hear your voice more like other people do.
Yeah.
It's a fun little exercise. So, first, to make peace. Second, to begin to use that voice. Maybe you practice a speech that you've always wanted to practice. I like to speak my dreams aloud. There is power in hearing your own voice. Easy for me to say, your own voice speaking your own dreams. So in my morning meditation and prayers, I record it in my own voice. It needs to be your voice speaking that. The other thing is to be at the correct pitch, which is part of voice training. What if I came on here after your amazing introduction and I said, "Hi, I'm Dr. Miluna." You would think, wow, what a disconnect. Why is her voice high pitched like a child? Because she looks like she's a little bit older and she's accomplished a couple of things, so she must be a little older. It needs to match. So the way we look, we care about how we look, but when I open my mouth and speak, it needs to match, or there's a disconnect for the other party. Does it make sense? They may not know why, but it does not align with our brand.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you hear your voice the first time on audio or when you watch a video conversation. And then I heard my voice much higher. So the voice that I hear inside, I feel like I'm much more on a lower end. And then when I hear myself via the recording, I feel like my voice is much higher. Is that true? Is there a difference?
There might be a slight difference because we do have a vision of our own voice in our head. Recording changes it a little bit depending on the quality. Now, we're using high quality technology to the best of our ability. It does change a little bit, but it's more of how we perceive it. So the other thing is that we have many voices inside our head, and that can be really good or not so good, depending on what the voices are saying. In my vocal archetype system that I created, we have, in my mind, in my spiritual training, 4 phases of life. So for a woman, it's the maiden or the young girl, then the mother, whether we give birth to a baby or a birth to an empire, a song, or a book. Then we have the queen, and then we have the elder. So at any time, we've got all 4 of those voices within. My maiden voices may be younger, softer, more playful. Maybe when I go out with my girlfriends, it's more of that maiden voice. So it could be a little higher pitched. My mother voice is the compassionate voice. That's the voice a mother uses for children, or if I have to apologize or have a hard conversation. Might be more of my mother compassionate voice. My queen is I run my business. I'm running the board meeting, a little more even in pitch, visionary, more impersonal actually, because I need to do what's best for everyone. The grandmother voice or the elder, that's the voice of wisdom. Maybe that's a little bit of your storytelling voice.
Wow. I mean, it really depends on who is your audience, whom are you talking to, because you need to really resonate with these people. And depending on that, you are choosing either or of these 4 architectural voices. Yeah.
It is. It's a recipe different for each aspect.
Yeah.
Your personal life, it'll be different. Our relationships, Media interviews are a little bit different, and there's always a mix of a couple of voices. It's
Mm.
quite extraordinary when you think about it. I think of the voice as multidimensional. So when I hear myself or you or the other person or people, it has height and width and depth. We've got tone, air, energy, love. We're choosing our words deliberately and purposefully with intention and enlightenment. It's it's complex and simple and gorgeous at the same time.
Yeah. Just having the awareness of what wisdom we carry in us already, the value that the voice actually has, what we can leverage, what we can really live in order to make a difference in others' lives. This is really unbelievable. It's astonishing. What is here is just something that we can take and something that we can refine and really use as something that makes us powerful and brings the brilliance out of us.
Beautifully said. Is bringing that inner brilliance outward, the
Yeah.
expression that is effective. And effective would mean that we're heard. People are leaning in to listen. And that's what happens when we have a strong message. Our heart is open, sharing our story, because only you can share your story as you would tell it. I can't tell your story like you would. When we're willing to be vulnerable and use our voice in that way, that's magic.
Mm.
Everything changes. We attract the right clients. We have more opportunities to speak in public. We get promoted. We earn more money. People want to hear what we have to say. And that's that inner brilliance that you mentioned. We have wisdom. Young people have it, old people have it, middle-aged people. If we're willing to share what we know in our unique 1 in 8 billion people way.
Yeah, yeah. The voice helps us to be present. And so, what's the number one thing for you that we can do to raise our presence and this energy with our voice?
The main thing I think is to quiet ourselves first and really be in the body. So I'm thinking of my feet right now. Think of your big toes right now. Because the minute our energy starts to rise up into our head, or we become self conscious, or we're concerned how we look, I've lost my connection with my audience. So I pause. You'll notice I breathe and pause. I don't put a filler word. I don't stumble. I choose a definite, purposeful, intentional word. And I'm allowing the energy to, I can feel it all throughout my body. I like to say you're calm and you're caffeinated at the same time. So you're in peace, but you can feel that beautiful energy. Your heart is open. You're excited because you get to share your story and your words. And nothing would be more powerful than taking both 100% responsibility and 100% joy in how you get to share. And that's usually vocally. Now, we do have a written voice as well. I wrote a book. A lot of people write books, but this is my speaking voice, my singing voice. I get to speak love through my voice. I get to say things as only I say them. These are our voices. And it's just one little vocal mechanism right here in the trachea. It's extraordinary.
Beautiful. Dr. Miluna, you just mentioned the book. You are the author of the Forbes book of Up-Level Your Communication, Evolve Your Presence and Speech to Change Everything. So whom is this book for? Is it mainly for business people? Whom would you recommend this book to read?
I did write it for business people. It's one of my friends said it's an airplane read. So what she meant was she flew from California to the East Coast and she read the entire book. And I was so grateful because I wanted to make it short enough that people will read it, right? The book on the shelf is shelf help, as one of my coaches said, not self-help. It's shelf help. It doesn't do you any good. It's designed for business people to understand the influence you can have. And you mentioned this earlier. We know the saying, we do business with people we know and trust. But the number one thing, it has changed over the years. The number one thing is trust. We have to trust people. And studies here in the US, I don't know about international, but probably the same, show that our trust has been very eroded in this country for a number of reasons. So it's understanding that trustworthy, credible, I know what I'm speaking about voice. So it's how to introduce people properly, formality and etiquette, communicating with compassion, building better real relationships, I call it, for more sales, how to command the room. There's a chapter just for women, the feminine voice and the power, which I recommend men and other folks read as well. And I opened the book with my own story of having a tumor in my head, being in huge trouble. My face was literally paralyzed, and I didn't know if I could continue as an actor, as a performer, and as a coach. So it's a strong, powerful opening chapter.
Wow, it's a must read. It's going to be in the show notes.
Thank you.
Since you are working with the C-suite, with executives, you are in the realm of leadership and you talk about love leadership. So what do you mean by love leadership exactly, and how do we express it?
I believe that the way we're moving in the world is to true diversity, true inclusion, kindness. The world is so harsh. We have so many things we need to work on, heal, repair, of course, starting with ourselves. What I mean by love leadership is the leaders that I look up to, and I believe we will look up to and want to follow, are in a place of transparency and true vision, meaning not tomorrow or next year's profits, 500 years in the future. What have I done for the world? What have I done for my ancestors and their ancestors and the next generations? When we understand our vulnerability, our power is through love and kindness, everything changes. And most of us were taught to be aggressive and patriarchal because it's a male-dominated power system. I was taught to sell aggressively. And this has been my journey as well. But our real power is vulnerability, heart, compassion, empathy, and love leadership. So going from love or from fear, which is, I trained with Marianne Williamson, we move from fear and aggression and body identity to spiritual identity and love, knowing who we really are. That's true leadership, and that will change everything.
Yeah, it starts with us, especially us as entrepreneurs. We are fraught with fear, especially at the beginning. When we build our brand, we have to push through this fear and embrace this love, because then we are much more authentic. We can establish that trust with people that we want to serve. And in line with that, of course, there is this voice that is part of our brand. Do you have 3 critical factors we have to establish, or we have to live, we have to practice when it comes to voice and communicating our brand? So how now does voice define our brand, or is our brand?
It's a major part, isn't it? Someone will look at our website and see the colors of our branding, and that's your expertise, part of that package. But if I can't communicate or speak well, I'm turning down my own brand, my own voice in the world. So the first thing is let's remove all the distractions, meaning the static interference, I call it. Filler words, so, right. Things like this that are repeatedly said. What we do instead, and you'll notice what I do, I pause and I breathe, and then I start a complete purposeful sentence. So first, let's get rid of the static interference. Let's make peace with a second or two of silence. That's about what most of the more aggressive informal countries, we're not comfortable with big silences. If we go to a place like Japan, folks will actually pause for around 20 seconds, believe it or not, so that they thoughtfully answer. Isn't that gorgeous?
Yeah, the huge differences. Exactly. Yeah, especially in the high context cultures like Japan and China, but also other countries in that area, they very much take this time to, first of all, listen, pay this respect, and then that's the silence, and then answer.
It's true, isn't it? And so we're in a global community, informal, formal, high context, low, and we want to leave no one out, which leads me to number 2. After we remove the static interference, leave no one out, meaning slow down our pace. Many folks speak multiple languages. We've got folks from all over the world in our companies and who we work with. What if someone has a hearing challenge? They're reading our lips as well as listening, looking, using other senses. So let's really take the time and the love to slow down our pace in our languages so we leave no one out. And third, I would invite folks to write down in their journal, get clear, what are 3 things I want to stand for in my brand? And now, how can I articulate that? If I want to, let's say love is one of them, what words would you use? Kindness, authenticity, warmth, inclusive, chocolate. Let's go nuts with it. It might be pink. Pink can conjure up thoughts of, warmness and a warm voice that hugs me. And that will give all of the entrepreneurs and business people clues about colors and words and copy and how you're going to speak your brilliance out into the world.
Yeah. These are perfect steps that we can take action on right away. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Miluna. A filler word. I'm totally aware of that right now. So I'm trying to go along your lines. So the first step
there it is. Yes.
Take out the filler words and take the time and leave nobody out. All right, so we are at the end of our show, Miluna. I would like to do a rapid fire terms question answer. Are you ready to give me quick answers to the terms I'm throwing out now?
I think so. Let's do it.
When it comes to power, the term power.
Power's within us.
Piano.
An amazing instrument. I have a grand piano in my home.
Switzerland.
Oh, the sound of silence in the Alps. Alp horns. You can almost hear the snowfall. It's so quiet.
Women empowerment.
Women change everything, and it starts with speaking up, speaking out, using our own voice.
And brands.
Brands are delicious. It's how we set ourselves apart from everyone else. Here's what's different about working with me.
All right, good. Dr. Miluna, is there anything I have not mentioned when it comes to our voice and brands? Is there anything you would like to add that you think is particularly important to mention?
You've done such a great job asking questions. I just want to remind everyone to think about their voice differently from this moment on. We've spoken in a lot of ways, and I know my perspective on the voice is very different from most teachers and most information. I invite you to, after you listen to this, go think about your own voice. How tall is your voice? How much air and tone is in the voice? How much love can you choose to communicate in the way you're speaking? How would your heart sound if it used a word? And this is where it gets so deep and so rich that I think you will delight yourself.
All right, that's beautiful. Dr. Miluna, where can listeners find you and how can they get in touch with you in the best possible way?
MilunaFausch.com. And I know that will be in the show notes so everyone knows how to spell it. That's the best place. You can find out how to work with me, book a complimentary assessment, read about my book, my blog. You can watch my television show. I have a phone app that you can download. All the social channels are there. That's the easiest and best place to reach out because I want to hear your voice and hear from you.
All right. Wonderful. Dr. Miluna, thank you so much for being my guest today on BrandsTalk. It really was a pleasure having you to teach us how we can intentionally leverage our voice to communicate our brain so that we can make an impact in other people's lives. Thank you so much. Thank you, Miluna.
You are so welcome.
Thank you.